Support for podcasts comes from Milwaukee School of Engineering Center for Professional Education, offering courses in AI machine learning, project management, and more. Program information at msoe.edu/CPE.
From 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR, this is Lake Effect. I'm Joy Powers. Today, we'll learn about the local need for blood donations following a stretch of cold and snowy weather.
Of the eligible population in the United States, adult population eligible to donate, only 3 to sometimes 5% actually do donate.
Then we'll help you understand the basics of data centers and tell you about a resource from WUWM that can help.
Well, data centers are the foundation of the internet, so they are essential infrastructure like railroads or power plants or highways. And they are driving a lot of the investment in tech and energy right now.
Plus, we'll learn about Milwaukee Film's Black History Month lineup. All of that is coming up on Lake Effect. This is Lake Effect from 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. I'm Joy Powers, and thank you so much for joining us. During January's cold snap, Versity Blood Center's supply ran low due to canceled blood drives and appointments. The supply is now rebounding as blood drives resume, but donations now can help replenish what was lost last month. Gretchen Jameson is the Chief Marketing Officer at Versity. She joins Lake Effect's Sam Woods to share more about the shortage and seasonal changes to blood supply.
Why is there a blood shortage right now?
It's really a fascinating thing when we think about blood shortage, in that of the eligible population in the United States, adult population eligible to donate, only 3 to sometimes 5% actually do donate. So in some respects, we're always in this cycle of just needing more blood on the shelves, if you will, at all of our hospitals across the country. Certain times of the year, that's a little bit more acute than others. And that's in particular true in the winter months when it's cold and it's hard, especially for some of those older donors who are so dependable and so loyal to this mission to get out. And also in the summer months when all of those high school blood drives are not happening. So there's always this seasonality to the more acute and dire need for blood. But I have to say, in many ways, we always need it because there's such a low percentage of the population giving regularly.
It sounds like this is cyclical and almost predictable, where the weather gets very cold in the winter, or in the summer you don't have those student blood drives, that you're expecting a shortage during those times usually?
We do, and we plan for that in terms of our kind of our allocation plan and how we serve our hospital partners. It's been really fascinating, and I'd love to talk about this a little bit for Versity here in Wisconsin, but also we work across the 5 Great Lakes states. We had a very successful January, and I say that carefully because I certainly don't want folks to think, well, heck, we don't need to go give. But across the Great Lakes states, cumulatively in January, we had 29 sub-zero days, pretty much the whole month of January. That meant canceled drives. Here in Milwaukee, we had one Friday where every mobile drive was canceled because of the deep freeze. And yet, here's what's really awesome. Our donors showed up. They heard the call, they listened, they responded. Shows like this, programs like this, outreach got, especially in Milwaukee, our donors were present. And that is a true testament to the community. So we plan for it to be tight. We really do. And then 29 days below zero across our footprint, that's rough. But it's that consistent drumbeat of, hey, we really need you, and people choosing to listen that honestly made a massive impact this January.
Well, shout out Milwaukee. Love to hear that.
I know, right? I mean, like, we're not afraid of the cold.
Right. Well, speaking of cold, and you mentioned earlier, the phrase of keeping blood on the shelves, so to speak. I'm curious because, these stockpile of blood seems to be cyclical, and there's,
Hmm.
during the winter and summer months, there can be expected shortages. This may be a silly question for someone like you who's in this industry, but why can't we freeze or store blood for these, like stockpile blood
Right.
for these times?
Stockpile it. I've been in my role for just about 2 years, and I asked very similar questions, right? Like, isn't there a way? And, we would need to get our chief medical officer and our transfusion medicine doctors on this call to really explain it to us. But unfortunately, like, no, right? Like, it's got a very limited shelf life. And even that, the use is so continuous. I mean, that's the thing. Like, when we think about especially what we call like level one trauma centers, like a freighter or something, right? The need that they have for blood, not just for regular routine surgeries, cancer patients that need transfusions, things that are very, kind of predictable and planned. You think of the mass trauma events. And then again, by the way, apply that to the weather patterns of the year, right? Where we have these circumstances that demand sometimes hundreds of units to save a life, right? That throws a wrench in everything. It's quite fascinating actually to learn how the inventory kind of works and how this system works across the country. Versity participates in something called the Blood Centers of America, BCA. We're a part of a network where if there's shortages in other parts of the country, the BCA affiliates kick in and help. So it really is a very fascinating thing across the country, not just here in Milwaukee or here in Wisconsin, how this inventory has to work to keep Americans healthy when we need it, right? And that's pretty impressive when you think about it.
So, sitting here in early mid-February, are there particular types of blood that are needed right now, or is it just, if you got blood, we'll take it?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm going to say if you've got blood, we would love for you to be a donor. Really, if you are a type O blood type, be you O positive or O negative, especially if you are O negative, because you are the universal blood type, right? You're the unicorn of blood types. That need is always very acute because in surgery, in trauma, that group O, we call it, blood is used most regularly on EMS units, right? That's the type of blood they're carrying. So if you're a type O and you haven't given in a while, oh, we would love to see you. And we would love to see you become kind of a regular donor. I mean, you can give 8 times a year. Our goal is to get our group O's consistently donating 4 times a year. Just booking that into their habit. I'm a O positive. You get my little message within like 48 hours of your blood's on the way to Children's Hospital, and it's just this sense of you donate it, it's being used. And that's pretty compelling.
So if I'm listening to this and I'm got a new interest in donating blood, but I'm not sure if I'm eligible, how do I find out about eligibility and if I'm a right fit for this?
Absolutely. Folks have different medical conditions and their own personal kind of health history. So the best thing to do is to visit versity.org and check out. We have a whole section of the website that will help a person understand maybe what some of the limitations for them might be. I'm very open about this. I'm a two-time cancer survivor. And so there's been, pockets of my life when I've not been eligible to donate because of my, cancer treatments and oncology and things of that nature. So all of us have different stories. So the best thing to do is visit versity.org, take a read. But if you read that and you're still not sure, there's very easy ways to chat with our donor care team off the website, and they can answer any questions that a prospective donor might have about their eligibility.
Again, for those that are new to this, but want to donate blood, what should they expect from an appointment?
I love that. So if you're going to visit one of our fixed donor centers, which I highly recommend, I mean, it's great to do a mobile drive, those pop up at schools and community organizations, and certainly encourage that. If you're a first-time donor, visiting a donor center, and we have multiple across the state, you can take a look at the website. It's a great, very comfortable experience, right? You're going to come into this really lovely center. You're going to be greeted by super friendly volunteers. There's going to be a very short intake interview, maybe 10 minutes. They're going to prick your finger, which is the part I actually like the least, which is weird. It doesn't hurt. I think it's just more the like, here we go. They're going to check to make sure that your iron levels are healthy, that you're in a good place to donate that day. The best way to make sure that happens is be sure to hydrate before you come in. eat a good breakfast, and make sure that you're, kind of nutritionally ready to donate blood. After you do that short intake, if everything looks good, it's like a little mini health check. You get your blood pressure, you'll go over to one of the chairs, and our phlebotomists are just incredible. We like to say hope flows through them, right to our patients, and so our donors. And so they will just get you set up. Usually 10 to 20 minutes, depending. Some people like to race. My husband gives blood very rapidly, and he somehow thinks that makes him better than me. I'm rather slow about how I give. Again, everyone is different. After you finish, you'll wander over to what we call the canteen and help yourself to delicious snacks. Everyone has their favorites. Fresh baked cookies are in our centers as well. And about 45 minutes, you're back about your day. And for many people, people, do I feel tired afterwards? Again, everyone is different. But most folks, they go about their day and they're back at it.
Well, fresh baked cookies seems like a pretty good.
It is pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good incentive there. Well, I'll end with sharing a little bit of vulnerability from myself. So I've given blood before, but got to do a little bit of mental prep beforehand, and just kind of the idea of needles is, it's a bit of a mental hurdle for me. So can you help make the case to folks like me who are a little kind of like, I don't know about needles, make the case to someone who's maybe a little scared going into this?
Yeah. Isn't that normal? I think it really is. Again, I mentioned my own health history. I've had a lot of needles and I'm not a fan, right? And I don't know that I've met many donors in our beautiful donor set, or they're like, yay, this is the best part of giving blood. So that's, first of all, just know you're not alone, right? That is completely normal. And our phlebotomists, those are the folks who draw the blood, are really I'm going to say really well trained. So, and I've had multiple, I've not had the same phlebotomist all the times I've given with Versity, but I've had the same great experience. So they're really well trained to make it very pain-free. Some people like to watch, I do not. And they'll talk you through it. Back when I was a teenager, and I'm older now, you could see the blood that you were giving. It was a little bit odd. Now it's actually out of your line of sight, and frankly, that actually really helps. And so, there are things that you can do to just sort of talk with your phlebotomist, and especially if you're chit-chatting with them. I'm going to tell you, you really almost don't notice that you're off and running. And once it starts, then it's just super easy from there.
Well, Gretchen, thank you so much for joining me on Lake Effect.
It's great to be with you.
Gretchen Jameson is the Chief Marketing Officer at Versity. She spoke with Lake Effect's Sam Woods. Versity Blood Center is a financial contributor to WUWM. Data centers are the foundation of the internet, with tech companies like Microsoft investing billions of dollars in artificial intelligence. Ever larger data centers are being built and proposed around the world. In Wisconsin, projects like the Vantage Data Center in Port Washington have stirred a lot of controversy. And that's just one of the many proposed centers in the state. In Mount Pleasant, Microsoft is building what it calls the most advanced data center in the world. But how will these large-scale, billion-dollar projects impact Wisconsin communities? To help understand these questions, WUWM has put together a guide on our website to give you a better understanding of the issue. WUWM reporter Eddie Morales joins me now to talk about it. Eddie, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Joy.
So let's start with probably the main question here. What are data centers?
Yeah, data centers, they really support everything that we do on the internet, things that we use our computer for, things that we do on our phone. I spoke with 3 experts to learn more about data centers. One of them is Kyle Cranmer. He is the director of the Data Science Institute at UW-Madison, and he described some of the reasons data centers exist.
They power essentially almost all internet and digital services that you ever might encounter. So, for instance, if you hear that something is in the cloud, actually it's very much on the ground and in one of these data centers. So that includes search engines like Google, your email, messaging.
So there are over 4,000 data centers in operation in the U.S. and nearly 3,000 more that have been announced or are under construction. And so they're growing at a really fast rate. And a major reason for that is advancements in cloud computing and AI, and kind of a race between tech companies and different nations to become a leader in that. To describe the way that data centers look physically, they're kind of nondescript, often large. They really have a big presence in rural areas. And specifically when it comes to the race in competing for AI advancements, the types of data centers that are needed for that are hyperscale data centers. And so those are the ones that are especially large, that house thousands of industrial scale computer servers to support that cloud and AI infrastructure. And in large part, those are controversial because they require more land and more resources to function.
Sure. Now, it seems like we have seen data centers all over the news lately. Why is that? Why are we seeing them so much?
There's an investment of billions of dollars from tech companies like Microsoft, Meta, Google, to bring these to communities that have the resources, that have the tax incentives like Wisconsin does. And so because those are appearing, those proposals, those are popping up in the news because of the concerns that they raise and some of the controversial aspects that surround it. So, for example, residents are voicing concerns at municipal meetings. Environmental groups like Clean Wisconsin are conducting studies on things like electricity and water usage. Microsoft even canceled plans for its Caledonia data center that it proposed after so many critics showed up and voiced their concerns about it. Kyle Kramer spoke to that in our chat, and I think that really highlights some of the problems that we're seeing and why it's appearing in the news so much.
I think data centers are at the intersection of many issues that have people's attention and also includes a lot of themes that people are simultaneously excited and worried about.
Right now, Microsoft's data center in Mount Pleasant is under construction, and the company also recently announced that it would expand that project with an additional 15 data centers. So there's really not going to be any time soon where this is in the news less. It's going to be an ongoing and developing thing.
That sounds like a huge number of buildings. What is the rationale behind building so many new data centers?
Yeah, tech companies say that hyperscale data centers provide the infrastructure that they need to improve AI performance and growth. Some proponents link that growth of AI and data centers to the nation's future. Some local lawmakers in Wisconsin are eager for that development in their communities. They say that data centers can generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Another expert that I spoke to, Costa Samaras, is the director of the Scott Institute for Energy Innovation at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. He also led clean energy innovation for the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy under the Biden administration. And he's not really speaking here as a supporter or a critic of data centers, but I think this quote from our conversation really puts into perspective why there's this data center boom right now.
Well, data centers are the foundation of the internet. So they are essential infrastructure like railroads or power plants or highways. And they are driving a lot of the investment in tech and energy right now. And they can help improve U.S. innovation for artificial intelligence.
Advocates of job creation, they're arguing that data centers will provide important job opportunities and job training. And that's a big part of OpenAI and Oracle's Vantage data center in Port Washington. It's called the Lighthouse Data Centers Project. And they're saying that it's going to create more than 4,000 skilled construction jobs, union jobs, and then there will also be more than 1,000 long-term jobs and then thousands of more indirect jobs. And that's according to a release from the companies.
And yet we're seeing so many communities come out against these data centers. Why are there so many Wisconsin communities that oppose data center developments?
Ultimately, critics say that development is moving too quickly and without enough oversight or public involvement. There's been concern about NDAs or non-disclosure agreements between tech companies and communities. That's actually an issue that one expert I spoke with, Amy Barrio, she mentioned that to me. She's the communications director at Clean Wisconsin, and she says those deals have caused a lack of transparency.
It's hard to overstate the concern that's out there on so many levels. Certainly having things rush through behind closed doors only makes that worse.
So there's also concern about the potential impact on climate goals, homeowners and renters' energy rates, the ways that the large presence of data centers can change the rural character of these communities. And according to a University of Michigan study, the rapidly growing energy demands of data centers have even forced states to delay the retirement of coal and gas plants and even consider building new fossil fuel facilities. So really, there's this concern about a regression from some of the work in recent decades that's gone into clean energy. Critics of the data center boom, they also worry about how residential power rates could be affected. The Lighthouse project in Port Washington, that calls for new high-power transmission lines to connect the data center complex to the power supply. Those high-power transmission lines could cover 100 miles and span even 6 counties. So it's a huge project, and it's a projected cost of up to $1.6 billion.
Right now, it feels like Wisconsin is a hotbed for data centers. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think expert opinions vary on this. Right now, Microsoft is touting that its Mount Pleasant data center will harbor the most powerful supercomputer in the world. Wisconsin is a desirable place for tech companies, and mainly that's because of the state's data centers sales and use tax exemption and water access for cooling servers. According to the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, these projects can bring programs to communities to bolster the workforce and offer high working wages and bring significant capital investment to communities. So Wisconsin communities are in some ways welcoming these data centers, and because of the resources we have, this is also a desirable place for them. And so those two things combining is why we're seeing Wisconsin sort of becoming what seems like a hotbed and a desirable destination for these data center proposals. Wisconsin actually had 47 data centers in operation as of October last year. And in comparison, Illinois had 232, and right now actually leading the U.S. is Virginia with 663 data centers. So when you talk about Wisconsin being a hotbed, there are other states that are ahead, but a huge company like Microsoft saying that they're bringing the world's most powerful supercomputer here brings a lot of attention to our state. From my conversation with Amy Barrio, she shared her opinion on the question that you just asked, Joy.
It feels like Wisconsin is a hotbed for data centers, but it almost seems like every state is a hotbed for data centers. Like, certainly this is not a thing that's unique to Wisconsin. But I will say that since Wisconsin passed tax incentives for tech companies, that's when you started to see data centers really start coming in and getting proposed.
That tax incentive that Barrio cited, that's just one part of the evolving legislation and ongoing changes that are happening with different proposals from lawmakers as this situation evolves and people are trying to get ahead of how quickly these tech companies are attempting to build and propose these projects in Wisconsin.
Well, and that really gets to this next question and one of the issues that you've mentioned here. People are concerned about oversight. They feel like there is very little happening. Who are the people, the organizations in Wisconsin that are overseeing or influencing data center development?
Yeah, there are elected officials, there's businesses, community-led groups that are all playing a role in approving and regulating, overseeing data center development. And there are also some that are speaking out against data centers. And we heard a little bit about Clean Wisconsin's role in doing some of these studies and research into what the data centers are claiming that the energy use is, and then what those implications are for the communities. In my conversation with Kostas Samaras, he was able to put into perspective what implications these projects have in other states.
There have been challenges noted around the country, including in Tennessee, where a data center was burning fossil fuels on site to provide power and generating new emissions in communities. There have been challenges with electricity price spikes and grid capacity issues in different parts of the country. There are several states where data centers now consume more than 10% of the state's electricity. In Virginia, data centers consume upwards of 25 to 40% of the state's electricity.
So in Virginia, data centers consume upwards of 25 to 40% of the state's electricity. And following the rising number of data center proposals in 2025 and the rising outcry from critics, Wisconsin legislators have released several proposals. So there's a Republican proposed bill that would require the Public Service Commission to ensure that no other customers are responsible for the cost of constructing or extending electric infrastructure that primarily serves a data center. That measure, it also would require that water used to cool equipment be contained in a closed-loop system. The closed-loop system, it's this technology that data centers, especially the one in Mountain Pleasant for Microsoft, they're really emphasizing that this is going to limit the amount of water usage, and it's going to be a fixed volume of water that is recycled, only used for cooling on some of the hottest days. Other days, cooler days, they will use air with large fans to cool those servers to make sure that they don't overheat. So the renewable energy facilities that primarily serve the data centers, they would be required to be located under this proposed bill at the site of the data center. And really, Republicans backing the bill say that that's meant to minimize the strain on the statewide grid and to lower costs. In December last year, Democrats in the Senate introduced a bill that would require large-scale data centers to derive at least 70% of their annual electric energy from renewable sources. And that's in order to qualify for exemptions from sales and use taxes. So in addition to that, in order to receive tax credits, large-scale data centers would have to pay laborers and mechanics who construct or refurbish the facilities the prevailing wage or the wage under the collective bargaining agreement, so whichever is higher. These things are being put in place and proposed to just help hold these tech companies accountable so that they're not coming to the community making these promises, and then once things are done, it's not what these communities expected. You also have these community-led groups and these organizations that are also worried about the integrity of the community's rural character and energy use.
I think when we look at really anything in the tech sphere, there's always another potential problem, the long-term viability. It feels like tech moves at a pace, especially now, that it's hard to imagine that something you're building today will even be useful in 5 years. Are there concerns about these centers becoming obsolete in the, relatively near future?
Yeah, there are some concerns about that, and opinions vary on it as well. Hyperscale data centers, they power artificial intelligence, right? So some critics are concerned about how quickly tech companies are building these projects and whether this growing AI bubble will pop. Amy Barrio, she shared her opinion about what some of those concerns are about this rapidly growing technology and some of the implications of if that just goes away.
We all know technology changes quickly and things become obsolete really fast. And so what happens when these hyperscale data centers aren't needed anymore, when they're obsolete? Because these are very specialized buildings.
When I spoke to Kyle Cranmer, he said that data centers likely won't become obsolete, but that they could evolve.
If the data centers only served AI and you're worried about an AI bubble, then that I think the worry that the data centers might become obsolete is much higher. But the data centers are very multi-purpose, and they're serving up all sorts of aspects of our digital lives.
Ultimately, there are a lot of advancements happening right now. There are a lot of changes and updates in proposed bills, proposed developments, studies on energy consumptions. These things are constantly changing. And so with our FAQ on our website, that's something that we'll be updating and also just individually reporting on some of these developments as they happen, especially from our environmental reporter, Susan Bentz. And we also want to know what questions listeners have, and those questions could be submitted on this FAQ page on our website.
Perfect. All right, well, a lot to look forward to. Eddie, thank you so much for being here on Lake Effect and sharing your work.
Thank you.
Eddie Morales is a WUWM news reporter who's been covering the recent influx in data centers here in Wisconsin. Lake Effect is available as a podcast, so you can listen when you like. Find it wherever you get your podcasts, then subscribe, download, and listen on demand. In about 10 minutes, we'll bring you some new local music in the Milwaukee Music Roundup. But first, we'll get a preview of what's playing at Milwaukee Film for Black History Month. That's coming up on Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. You're listening to Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM. I'm Joy Powers. There are many ways to observe and celebrate Black History Month, including a trip to the movie theater. Milwaukee Film curated a month-long lineup to recognize Black History Month. Ty Williams is the Black Lens programmer for Milwaukee Film, and he's handpicked a variety of films you can see on the big screen, which reflect Black icons in fiction. They're all a part of the series Afrofuturism, Fates Beyond Fiction. Williams joins Lake Effect's Audrey Nowakowski to share more.
For Black History Month, you programmed a special slate of films all throughout February. And before we get into some specifics, let's talk about the theme of your programming. It's called Afrofuturism, Fates Beyond Fiction. So to start, can you share a little bit on how and why you honed in on this theme?
Yeah, absolutely. So since this is my second year programming for Black History Month, last year I chose a lot of films that dived into Black history, but also had a lot of grief to them, or were a lot of stories that had a lot of trauma attached to them. And so I wanted this year to be a little bit more jovial and hopeful. So I chose Afrofuturism, since these movies still contain themes of Black history and conversations about colonialism and things that have happened throughout history to Black Americans, but they also offer a dreaming aspect to them, sort of imagining a better future or dreaming up a better world than the one we currently exist in. So I think that it's a very good theme for right now, this time in history, to sort of not just be doom and gloom, but also inspire hope into people. And that was my goal with choosing these movies.
Yeah, and it's a great slate, and the release dates vary, but I want to start us off with Sorry to Bother You. So this was released in 2018. It's directed by Boots Riley. Can you share more about it and why you chose it?
Yeah, so it is a film by Boots Riley, as you said. He is a filmmaker that has a lot of films that are very surrealist, sci-fi, supernatural in nature, and I guess a lot of his films very much apply under the umbrella term of Afrofuturism. Sorry to Bother You specifically is about a Black man who learns that he can code switch really well, hence meaning like he can talk like a white man really well, and uses it for his telemarketing job, and it leads to a lot of very bad circumstances happening to many different people. But it is a very interesting take on that conversation that has happened in a lot of households of, like, you know, being Black but being told that you quote unquote act white, and just sort of putting that conversation to screen in a way that is very unique, to say the least.
Definitely. And a stacked cast as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely stacked cast. It's got everybody in it. Keith Stanfield's the first one that comes to my mind, but I'm pretty sure it's got everybody in it.
Yeah. Watch it and see everybody. Here's the pitch. And then coming up next, we have a film from 1974, directed by John Connie, and it's called Space is the Place. Now, for, I'm assuming, most younger audiences, maybe they've never heard of this. Can you share a little more about it?
Yeah, so Space is the Place is a film featuring Sun Ra, the musician, and is very much all about his ideology, which is heavily related to Afrofuturism. His whole thing, I would say, is Afrofuturistic. But it's a movie about Sun Ra coming down to Earth from a big spaceship and saying, whoa, life on Earth is very bad, and I want to take everyone away from this and go to a new planet, imagine a new future somewhere else. And his music very much symbolizes all of that. It's very, if you've heard Sun Ra's music, it's very strange sounds sometimes, very unconventional. And his whole thing was imagining a new world through sound. So if you can hear a new world, then maybe you can visualize one. And yeah, it's just about Sun Ra coming down on a spaceship and saying, hey, come with me to space. It's going to be way better. The screening is going to take place on Valentine's Day, but I don't it's not really a Valentine's Day-y movie, but I still think it's worth a watch.
Yeah. Well, not everyone likes a traditional Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
This can be the alternative for them. All right. And coming up, one of my favorite films, I suppose we can say it's technically sci-fi too, as well as Afrofuturism. It was released in 2022 by Jordan Peele, and it's Nope.
Yeah, Nope is an amazing film. It talks a lot about Black history and sort of being lost in film history, Black people's contributions to film as a genre and an industry, and sort of being lost to the wayside as technological advancements continue to get faster and faster. But I like Nope a lot because it talks about so many other things as well, not just within the industry of Hollywood, but just life in general, being separated from your family, the idea of coming together through grief, the primate scene that people think about and how that relates to being a child in the industry. It's a movie that has so much to talk about, so many themes, so much symbolism that I wanted to show it just because I love seeing people after the movie theaters get into a big circle and talk about a movie. And that's a movie that you can really talk about.
Definitely. And I feel like this one in particular is a great rewatch on the big screen because the cinematography and also the settings themselves, it needs to be sprawled out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And finally, perhaps the best, maybe infamous, not this first movie though, later in the trilogy, we have Blade. And this is the one released in 1998, directed by Stephen Norrington, and of course, starring Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, I chose this one because I just personally have a very big attachment to Blade. As a character, I think he is amazing representation for young Black men to sort of, as the theme of Afrofuturism calls for, to imagine a future that does not exist here. I remember being very young and thinking oh, I could absolutely be a vampire hunter. And it's because we see images that, Blade isn't the most artistic, most Oscar-worthy movie ever, but it does hit something in people just by seeing a cool Black vampire on screen. And it also is the Marvel movie that started the formula for Marvel movies. So it's very much one you should see if you haven't seen it already. I think it's one of the coolest movies out there, and I think that it's just a really fun time, regardless of who you are.
Exactly. And I think for people who maybe aren't familiar but noticed everyone's excitement in Blade's cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine, this is a great way to start the journey to acquaint yourself with this main character. And we're still waiting on that new Blade movie, but, who knows when that'll come out.
Yeah, it got canceled.
Oh, officially again. Yeah, it's been canceled a few times.
Yeah, hopefully somebody revives it again, but I'm holding my breath for that one.
Well, in the meantime, we can head to the Oriental to see the original Blade and all the other films that we talked about today. So, Ty, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Thank you so much for having me again. It's great to talk to you.
Space is the place. Space is the place.
Ty Williams is the Blacklands programmer for Milwaukee Film, and he spoke with Lake Effect's Audrey Nowakowski. You can find show times for the films they talked about at WUWM.com. Milwaukee Film is a financial supporter of WUWM. Coming up next, we'll share some new local music for you to check out this month. That's coming up on Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.
Space is the place. Space is the place, yeah. Space is the place. Space is the place. Space is the place. Space is the place, yeah. Space is the place.
This is Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM. I'm Joy Powers. Every month, Matt Wild from Milwaukee Record creates a list of some of the best new songs from local musicians. And every month, he shares a few of those songs with us for the Milwaukee Music Roundup. Matt Wild, as always, thank you for joining us here on Lake Effect.
Thank you for having me back.
So we are starting off with a song that is very alt-rock. I wrote that this is like a wall of song. It really comes at you.
Absolutely, yes. This is a new song from the great Milwaukee band Gold Steps. Now, Gold Steps, they've been around, I don't know, for quite a long time now, maybe a decade or so, something around there. And they are really just the masters of this very kind of, I would say, glossy, very slick pop punk. And kind of like emo as well. There's a little bit of that in there. Very earnest, a lot of big guitars, like you said, kind of a wall of guitars, and really just slickly produced. They've been at it for many, many years, and they're fantastic. Their front woman, Betty Moritz, she's fantastic. The whole band's fantastic. They play a ton of shows all the time. They're opening for big bands at venues like the Rave. If you're into kind of 2000s pop rock and like emo and that stuff, and you go see some of these classic bands, Gold Steps may be opening for them. And they're just a great Milwaukee band. So, yes, they have a new song out. It is called Mirrored Souls. And, it's just Gold Steps doing what they do best. Big guitars, big hooks, and some great vocals. So, here they are, Gold Steps with Mirrored Souls.
Lost to time. We were two mirrored souls. It was you who made me whole. Reflecting each other, shining and shattered. Haunted but broken, too soon, like we were always done.
Mirrored Souls by Gold Steps. The next song we're going to look at, I know it's from a band that we've talked about before. They have a very memorable name, Witty Remarks, with Witty being spelled like their last name, Witty. The sound is very interesting. They describe it as experimental folk pop, which does feel right. Mm-hmm. Their sound is somehow both very soft. It has this kind of soft edge of folk music, but then very high energy beats that you might associate with like pop rock.
Absolutely. And the song we're going to be listening to really is exactly what you said. This is a new song from Witty Remarks. And last year, Witty Remarks, which is a group kind of centered around Travis and Ashley Witty, husband and wife. And last year, they put out a fantastic full-length album called Nary a Care, which I believe we talked about. That was a whole album dedicated and about Travis's father, who had passed away. And it was this really lovely remembrance of his father. Now, a year later, Witty Remarks are back with kind of an accompanying EP. It's called Paltry Sum, and it's kind of an accompaniment to last year's LP. And instead of being about Travis's father, this is about his grandparents, and specifically about his grandmother, I believe, who was a gardener. And I don't know, I just really like these past two projects from Witty Remarks. Very, very personal albums, very, very lovely. And the band they have backing them, a lot of, local music ringers in there, people like Chris Porterfield in there, and folks like that playing. The song we're going to be listening to is appropriately called Song for Dolores, about Travis's grandmother. And it's one of the more kind of rockier numbers on this EP. The whole thing's fantastic. It's Witty Remarks, and this is Song for Dolores.
Every bulb and roll
Dolores by Witty Remarks. We're going to another band. I believe we have talked about Daydream Retrievers before. There's something very Midwestern about this song, between the instrumentation, the vocals, the harmonies. There's a very understated pageantry to it.
Ooh, I like that. I don't know. Wow, that's just a note to Daydream Retrievers. Use that. That's fantastic. Yes, this is the latest from Daydream Retrievers. The song is called Joke for a Light. And Daydream Retrievers is kind of the long-running solo project, sometimes band project, of Ian Alvera. Now, Ian, we've talked about a lot of records he's been involved with on these segments because he is a local producer, an engineer, a mixer, and he has done work kind of behind the scenes on tons of fantastic Milwaukee records in the last few years. His name is all over some of the best releases of the last few years. And he used to be in a bunch of bands as well, like the Sleepwalkers back in the day. And like I said, Daydream Retrievers has been kind of this ongoing solo project of his. The last time he put out a song, it's been a while. It's been, I think, since 2022 since he put out a new track. And here he is just kind of out of nowhere with this really lovely song. Very kind of, like you said, understated indie rock, Midwest indie rock song, absolutely. And just one of the things he does so well, he just has these effortless hooks. Like, these songs are just so hooky and they just get in your head. He doesn't release a ton of songs, but when he does, he makes them count. I know he's working on a full-length EP. Don't know when that's coming out, but in the meantime, we have this fantastic single. It's from Daydream Retrievers, and it is called Joke for a Light.
How will you take care of yourself if you don't have the time? Chips in a bottle on a shelf, garden gnomes and an elf. How can you let the time pass you by? Another race around, another innovating switch. Teach yourself another dirty trick and pull it out the hat instead of a rabbit. It's another bad habit. Do you agree? How will you try to see in the dark with a joke for a light?
Joke for a Light by Daydream Retrievers. The final song we'll be talking about is from, again, another group that puts out great songs. This is Blacks, and it's maybe easy listening hip hop.
Yeah, it's a very, I would say, like adult hip hop. This is Blacks with a new song of his. The song we're going to be listening to is called Divinity Directions. It is from his latest LP. That record is called Omnipotent Methodology. I was trying to get that out, and I think I did it. Blacks, a veteran Milwaukee artist. He has been around for a long, long time, has put out tons of records, put out tons of singles, put out tons of great videos. And yeah, he is he's a veteran at this point, and he's still out there doing it. He puts out this very, I think, kind of socially conscious, jazzy, and I think spiritual hip-hop as well. There's a lot of songs, a lot of tracks where he's really grappling with some big issues, including spirituality and things like that. And he does it so well. I think he has just such a great voice, a great presence. Seeing him live is always great, too. He has this new record out. It's a big record. It's like 16 tracks or something. And he's just getting ready to go out on a big spring tour as well. And it's great to see kind of these veteran Milwaukee acts still going at it, still going strong, and still putting out some fantastic work. So from his latest record, this is Blacks with Divinity Directions.
Lord, now lay me down to sleep. Yeah. Pray the Lord, my soul. Like Picasso. Pray the Lord, my soul. I watched a fanboy turn turncoat. pronto in my spliff, yeah, it burn throat. 53206 miracle earn gold. Bad women lust me, them other guys dusty. I'm flushed down, Baccarat Rouge, them boys musty. Trust me, you couldn't walk a mile in these Air Forces to flow torches. Singe eyebrows and destroys porches. Handsome man modeling school, yeah, the boy gorgeous. A giant, tyrant in these streets, enormous. Strictly real, never did it for performance. Will over skill, keep shooting it like it's overkill. Double tap for the blessings, but we cracked the seal. Crackers can't lock me in no deal, I'm a boss for real. God degree.
Matt Wild is the co-founder of Milwaukee Record. Every month, he joins Lake Effect to talk about some of the best new music from local bands. At WUWM.com, you can find all of our previous conversations. And that wraps up today's show. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm Joy Powers. If you missed any of Lake Effect this week, you can find all of our conversations at WUWM.com. If you'd like to take the show on the go, you can download the Lake Effect podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Tomorrow on Lake Effect, we'll look ahead to Valentine's Day. We'll chat with a group of seniors on finding love later in life. Plus, a local bookshop owner will share some reading recommendations for those in any relationship status. Thanks so much for joining us right here on listener-supported 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.
Now lay me down to sleep. Yeah. Pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I shall die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I write a rhyme like my life depended on it. Clearly information I obtained from early mornings, pondering my physical existence.